Hello and welcome to another episode of Dream Home Cooking. Today I am making what I call a blue plate special. It is just a meat and two, not a meat and three, but it is a delicious, comforting menu. I've got some delicious beef patties with a wonderful rich brown gravy and with creamy mashed potatoes and some delicious green beans. And for dessert, I have a butter pecan pound cake. And I'm going to go ahead and make this first because it takes almost an hour to cook. So I want it to have time to cook and cool down. So this is probably one of the easiest recipes you'll ever make dessert-wise, and it is delicious. Everybody will love it, and they'll ask you for the recipe. So this was just a boxed cake mix. It's the butter pecan flavor. And what's interesting about this cake is instead of putting the icing on the cake, I'm putting it in the cake. So that brings it to a whole new different level, really makes it moist and delicious. So I'm going to go ahead and add a cup of water to this cake mix. And then I've got a cup of vegetable oil. And then of course I'll put this in a minute. That's the icing. And this is the creamy coconut pecan icing that you want to use. And then I'm going to add 4 eggs. But before I add the eggs, I'm going to go ahead and get this mixed a little bit. I love a bundt cake because it goes a long way. You can get probably 20, 25 slices out of it. And it always freezes well after you bake it. If you want to freeze some of it, you can. And it's, good in the freezer for a couple months. That's what I do because Mike and I will eat the whole thing. So we'll have a piece and then I'll freeze it and we'll take little pieces out at a time. All right, so I'm ready to add the eggs. And I'm just going to add one at a time. And this is 4 eggs. And it already smells delicious. I love box cakes that you spiff it up like this and add things to it. And no one will know. They will think you made it from scratch. Okay, so now I'm going to stop this a second and add this icing. And again, this is the coconut pecan icing. It smells delicious too. Okay, make sure I get all that out of there. Whoop. All right, I almost had a little mini disaster. Okay, so now I'm going to mix the icing in there real well. This is an old recipe of mine I found. I keep 3-ring binders everywhere full of recipes that go back probably 30 years. And I found this. I hadn't made it in a long time, and it's actually in my cookbook. But it is very good. Okay, so I think that is good and mixed. And it is important to mix it well because if you don't, I think that's what causes sort of a crumbly cake after you bake it and you try to cut it and it's just real crumbly. All right, so I'm going to move some of this out of the way. Boy, I made a mess with that batter. Okay, so then I've got my bundt pan, and I love this stuff. It's the cooking spray that has flour in it. Just be careful because it'll get the floors white or your countertops. So I like to spray it over the sink or a garbage can. And you want to give it a generous spray. I always have PTSD when I bake things because, I had a famous incident on a cooking show years ago where a cake actually caught on fire in the oven. It was hilarious. Not at the time, but looking back, it was pretty funny. So I'm going to take a spatula and try to just stir this up just one more time. And then I'm going to go ahead and pour it in the greased bundt pan. It smells delicious. Okay. And now this will go into a 350 oven, and you want to bake it for 50 minutes, 50. And as always, everybody's ovens are different, so you may want to check on it at about 45 minutes. But for the most part, for me and my oven, it's always right at 50. Okay, so then after I want to get this, use a spatula and get all this goodness into the bundt pan. Okay, and then I always like to tap it just a little bit on the counter, just to get any bubbles out. Okay, so I'm gonna get that in the oven at 350, and when we come back, I'm gonna show y'all how I make these delicious beef patties.
Hey guys, come on in.
Hey Troy.
Yeah, let me show you around. Wow.
You know, as the Acme Brick spokesperson, I get paid in brick. All the brick I want. Solid. What? Too much? To get Acme Brick quality, look for the Acme name. And here's the guest room. Hope you like a firm mattress.
My father started this business in 1977. The people that work for us is part of what sets us apart. All of our employees have experience. All of our plumbers have been with us for 10 years or greater. Our motto at Dean & Son is quality and service. We're going to do quality work. We don't leave people hanging. We're there when we're supposed to be. We're done when we're supposed to be. Living up to what you sell and service them after they pay you, that's where your integrity in the plumbing business comes.
Dean & Son Plumbing Company. Call today at 518-9780.
Carrier asks, what does comfort mean to you? Is it a cool breeze on a scorching day? Or a cozy corner on a cold night? That every room of the house is as inviting as the next. And the air is fresh and clean for everyone. That humidity is where it belongs. At Carrier, comfort means more than just the temperature.
Hello, I'm Annette Hale of Annette Hale's Indoor Comfort Systems, the lady with a team you can trust. Visit us online at indoorcomforthsv.com.
Since 1983, individuals and businesses in Alabama have relied on Wolfe, Jones, Wolfe, Hancock, Daniel, and South for their legal representation. Our experienced attorneys offer high-quality legal counsel in commercial law, real estate, and personal injury litigation. So if you need an attorney, hire the best attorney you can. Call the experienced North Alabama attorneys at Wolfe, Jones, Wolfe, Hancock, Daniel, and South to arrange your initial consultation, because we're dedicated to setting the standard for legal services.
Okay, we're back, and now I want to show y'all how I make these delicious beef patties. My mom used to make something similar to this when we were growing up, but it is, to me, pure comfort food, and it's super easy. You want to start with 1.5 pounds of ground beef, and I like to use ground sirloin because it's a little leaner. Then, of course, I have my typical round of seasonings. I've got a teaspoon each of salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. I think it's really good to layer your flavors. Even though there's going to be a nice gravy over this, I think it's good to layer them. I've got 1/2 cup of green onions that I chopped. If you're not a huge fan of green onions, you can certainly leave them out. And then I've got a teaspoon of yellow mustard. These are all things that just add to a little delicious flavor. And then I've got a tablespoon of A1 steak sauce. A tablespoon of Worcestershire. Love that stuff. And then a teaspoon of brown sugar. Just gives it a nice little secret something that people will say, wow, what's in there? I'm going to stir that a little bit. Okay, so give that a little stir. Then I'm going to put an egg, just one egg. That sort of binds it together. And then lastly, to this, I'm going to add 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs, and I like to use the Italian ones, and you can certainly make them homemade, but this is just super easy to me. And this I'm going to divide into 4 patties. So if you want to know how many it will feed, 1 patty per person, unless you've got somebody super hungry or with a huge appetite. So you just want to make sure you get all those seasonings mixed well. Put a little elbow grease into it. I took all my rings off, washed my hands thoroughly because you just have to get your hands in here. Okay, so now I'm going to just take it. I like to, whenever I'm doing these beef patties, I like to take my fork and I just sort of score the beef in the bowl just so I can make sure that I'm pretty close to the same size for each patty, just so they cook evenly. So I'm just basically doing 4 like that, and then I'm just gonna make a patty. Okay, so just pat them out, and if you have one of those cute little old Tupperware hamburger patty makers, you can certainly use that too. But sometimes to me it's just easier to do it with my hands, and I have one less little gadget to have to clean. All right, so there's the last patty. All right, so with the magic of TV editing, I washed my hands right quick, and I've got these patties, and now I am going to brown them in this skillet, and I put a teaspoon of butter and a teaspoon of olive oil in here, just for extra flavor, really. You don't have to do that. You could just spray it with cooking spray. And then I'm just gonna brown the 4 patties on both sides. It'll take about 4 minutes on each side. And then once I flip them, I'm gonna add some onions so that those onions just really get in there and add a great flavor to it. Isn't this the cutest little skillet? My sweet best friend Tina gave me this for my birthday, and I have used it literally almost every night since she gave it to me. It is awesome. It's non-stick, but it browns so well. It makes the most amazing scrambled eggs. So, hey Tina, I love my skillet. Okay, so I'm gonna let that brown for about 4 or 5 minutes, and then I'll flip them. All right, so they've been cooking for about 5 minutes on each side. Now I'm just gonna give them a little flip. Nice and brown. And I like to cook these for about 45 minutes to an hour. They just get really, really tender, melt in your mouth. So now that I've got them flipped, I'm gonna go ahead and put the onions on top. And I'm gonna cook these on medium-low after they finish browning on the other side. All right, so I've got some onions that I just sliced, and I love to just lay them on top of the patties so that flavor sinks down in there. And then you've also got the layering of flavors, things that I added to it. All right, I think that's plenty. And that was about 1 small onion that I just sliced. Okay, so I'm gonna let these brown for about 5 minutes on the other side, and then I'll show y'all the next step. Okay, so the other side of the patties are browned. Now, I'm almost embarrassed to show y'all this part. I very rarely use packaged stuff. I try not to use a lot of processed things when I cook, but sometimes in life you gotta do easy. So this is simple. This is a packet of Pioneer beef gravy. You take 1.5 cups of boiling water, and you add the pack of gravy to that. And I'm telling y'all, this is good gravy. Nobody would ever know if you told them it was a packet. So make sure you mix that real well, and that hot water will help dissolve everything. And then this is 1/2 cup of very cold water that I'm gonna add to the mix. And then I'm just gonna pour it over the patties. Okay, so I turned it down low, and I'm gonna just pour it right over. And this will thicken as it simmers. All right, and then I like to add some mushrooms to it. This is just about 1/2 cup of fresh sliced mushrooms. If you don't love them, you can certainly leave it out, but that beef gravy just sort of infuses into these mushrooms, and it's very, very good. All right, so that dish, other than having to simmer for about 30, 45 minutes, it's done. So I'm turning it on low. I'm gonna cover it and leave it alone and just let it simmer. And then when we come back, I'm gonna show y'all how I make my creamy mashed potatoes and delicious green beans.
When you select Wolde Flooring's hardwood, you don't just enhance your home, you transform it. With hundreds of beautiful, durable, hand-selected varieties that come with up to a 50-year warranty, you can count on unsurpassed beauty and proven durability that's guaranteed to stand the test of time. When you want the best flooring for your home, come to Wolde Flooring in Madison. WoldeFlooring.com, 256-325-8453.
Choosing an appliance can be complicated these days. That's why at Bob Wallace Appliance, we start by asking questions like an occasional cook or a serious chef, something just for you or an army, once a week or once a day. You see, it's not just what we know about appliances, it's what we know about you. Bob Wallace Appliance, locally owned and operated for more than 35 years. Online at bobwallaceappliance.com.
Hey guys, I wanted to let y'all know about a year ago, me and Bruce Stone started a new company called Stonewood Homes. And Stonewood is a little different business plan than Woodland Homes because Stonewood is a scattered lot home builder, which means if you have a lot and you're looking for a builder, Stonewood is the answer. So if you own a home site or you're looking at building a custom home, give us a call at 830-9000 and let's start building.
All right, so now I want to show you guys how I make my green beans. These are so tasty. I start with a tablespoon of bacon grease and a tablespoon of butter. And to that, I like to add about a half a cup of chopped white onion. This is another just super simple but super flavorful recipe. And I've got my potatoes boiling. I'm going to show y'all after this how I make my creamy mashed potatoes. But I started with 3 large baking potatoes, and I just peeled them and cut them in cubes, and they're boiling on the back there for probably about 20 minutes or until they're nice and soft. So I'm just going to brown this onion in the bacon grease and the butter for about 5 or 6 minutes. All right, so I'm going to let those brown up a little bit before I add the green beans to it. Okay, so those have been cooking about 5 minutes. I like to use frozen cut green beans. So this is 2 10-ounce bags. You can certainly use fresh, but frozen is the next best thing. All right, and I just like to give it a stir to get those onions mixed in there with it. And then I add to this a teaspoon each of salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder. I like to put a tablespoon of white sugar in there. It kind of cuts any kind of bitterness. You can certainly leave that out, but I think it just adds a great little flavor. So now that I've got the spices mixed in there, I'm going to cover it, just barely cover it with water. You just cannot eyeball it. And then I also like to add some chicken broth. I do half and half, water and chicken broth. If you don't have the chicken broth on hand, that's okay. But I think it just gives it a nice little extra flavor. And it is that simple. I'm going to bring these to a boil and then cover them and just let them simmer. After they come to a boil, let them simmer for about 15-20 minutes. I don't want them to get too mushy. All right, so I'm going to move some of this around, and then I'll show y'all how I make my creamy mashed potatoes. Okay, so I switched out a few things. I've got the green beans simmering. The cake just came out of the oven. Beef patties simmering in the gravy. Now, but the potatoes are boiled. Again, it was 3 baking potatoes. I peeled and just cut into chunks. Boiled them for about 20 minutes till they were nice and soft. Put that back there. Then I am going to add a couple of really good things to this. I'll add the seasonings first. I just use simple salt and pepper. And as with everything, you want to go back after you mash these up and add all your ingredients and just taste them, see if they need a little more salt, because mashed potatoes do need a good amount of, not too salty, but they need a hearty amount of salt. So I have a tablespoon of room temperature cream cheese. That just always adds a bit of creaminess to it. So I'm going to start, I like to use a hand mixer just to mix these up. And my bowl is a little shallow. I probably should have used a deeper one. So hopefully this isn't going to go everywhere. You can also use a potato masher, but I'm going to mash these up a little bit before I add the rest of the ingredients. I love good old mashed potatoes, and man, with this dish, with these beef patties and the gravy, it's perfect with it. Okay, so I'm going to add a little milk, and I kind of eyeball it. I start with about a 1/4 cup of whole milk. Then I want to add a couple splashes of heavy whipping cream. That just makes it rich and flavorful. I got to do this on low or I'm going to lose some potatoes. Okay, and then I have a half a stick of butter at room temperature, and I think I'm going to need a spoon to get that out. You don't need a lot of ingredients in these mashed potatoes. Sometimes if I happen to be out of cream cheese or what have you, I'll put a little sour cream in there, or you could do the sour cream and cream cheese if you want it really creamy. So you just want to mix them until they're super creamy. Okay, those look pretty well mashed up. Now I'm just going to add a little splash of heavy whipping cream. Just do 1, 2, 3 little. And if you don't have heavy whipping cream and you've got coffee creamer, you can use that too. All right, so I think these are ready to go. And this serves about 4, so if you've got a bigger crowd, you definitely want to double this recipe. But they are delicious and they also freeze very well. Okay, so I am gonna check on these green beans. I'm gonna give them a stir. They're almost ready, they just need to be a little more tender. And then of course, my beef patties have been cooking almost 45 minutes. I'll show y'all those in a little bit. I'll plate it up. But I wanted to tell y'all about our community of the week this week. It's called Monrovia Springs, and it's one of our very newest communities, and we're super excited about it because we are bringing the Craftsman product back to the market, just like our Wildwood product. It just went off like crazy. People loved our Wildwood product. So we're doing it again in Monrovia Junction, and that area is very close to Highway 53, just in an excellent location to get to Research Park. Great grocery shopping, Publix, tons of restaurants, good schools. So I encourage y'all to check our latest project out. It's called Monrovia Springs, and I'm going to turn it over to Mike to tell you guys many more details about it. And when we come back, I am going to plate up all this delicious Blue Plate comfort food.
You know, years ago, we researched different cabinet companies. Wellborn was the cabinet company that we decided to go with. Wellborn has a lot of your custom style building like we did in the local cabinet shops years ago. You just can't go wrong with a product like that with Wellborn. On top of that, Wellborn has researchers that are out in the market every day. Their job is to see what's current in the market, what's selling, and what their dealers need to be showing in their showroom. So come out, let me help you design your kitchen with Wellborn products.
Okay, today we are at Monrovia Springs, and we had such a popular demand for our Wildwood product. We're going to duplicate it in Monrovia. So we bought this piece of property. It's in the heart of Monrovia, just a great location. We're about a block from the high school. But we're going to come in here and we're going to do that Craftsman type series of home. In Wildwood, we've been able to sell them as fast as we've been able to build them. And so we've just released about 10 starts in Monrovia Springs. It is located off of Jeff Road. So if you come up Jeff Road, past Blake Bottom, probably another 2 or 3 miles right before you get to the high school, we're on the right-hand side. And just great school systems, great location, a great product. These particular homes are going to be starting in the $400,000 price range. And we started this design, started working on it about 3 years ago. And one of the things that I demonstrated to my team and told them was like, guys, we got to hit the mark. So I tasked them to come up with just a product that would nail it and hit it out of the park. And this product has been so popular. Not only are we building it here in Monrovia, we've got a new community in Madison that's going to be coming on next year that we're going to be building that same product there. So it's just a great product that people really seem to like and enjoy. And we just encourage you to come out. We do have an information center. Also, information is on our website, woodlandhomes.com. Or if you'd like to schedule an appointment, you can just give us a call at 256-830-9000. But all of our communities are open 7 days a week, and we just encourage you to come out and leave the rest up to us. So y'all come out and see us.
Okay, we're back, and I missed my sidekick today. It's the second time in a month this has happened, but bless him, he's got a lot going on. He had somebody call him about some land for sale, and it was the only time to go see it, so that's where he is. So I'm doing it solo today, but I want to show y'all, this was the cake. So I like to take a little butter knife, plastic butter knife, because I don't want to scratch the Teflon on this bundt pan, and I just sort of run it around the sides just to make sure it's loosened before I turn it out. And I did let it cool down about 45 minutes. You can, do 45 minutes, an hour, what have you. And then I've got my little glass thing that goes at the bottom of my cake plate. And I'm always nervous. I'm gonna hold my breath, say a little prayer. Let's see if it comes out. I'm telling y'all, I stink at baking. All right, 1, 2, 3, woo! Okay, it came out. All right, so there's the cake. And honestly, it's better the next day. I don't know what it is about a bundt cake, but it's something about it just kind of sealing all the flavors in. But of course, we're going to cut into it after a while. But so there's the butter pecan pound cake. Now I want to show y'all, I'm going to plate up all of this just like it's in a restaurant, and it's a blue plate special. My producer Sadler calls this nap food, and it definitely is. So, but it's good. It's comfort. All right, and look how cute. This pan also comes with its own little spoon. It's got a place to rest, and it also comes with a steamer basket. All right, so I'm going to take a patty out of here. Oh, one other thing. If you like your gravy really thick like we do, it is pretty thick as it is, but I like to make it a little thicker, so I took a tablespoon of cornstarch with a 1/4 cup water, mixed it up, and poured it in there, and it thickens within a minute. All right, so I am just going to put this right here. There's one of those delicious onions. And then I'm going to go to the mashed potatoes. All right, these are just delicious, creamy, homemade mashed potatoes. Don't do the ones in the box. These are so easy, and they're so much better. And better for you, if that's even possible to say, with the butter in it and cream cheese. Okay, so I'm going to get a little gravy for the potatoes. Just ladle that over there. All right, and then we've got our green beans. This smells delicious. All right, and then just for fun and color, I'll put a little piece of parsley on it, and there is your blue plate special, a meat and 2, plus the cake. So, but again, I wanted to encourage y'all to go take a look at Monrovia Springs. It is beautiful, gorgeous, new, great product. Mike will tell you all a lot about that. I also wanted to tell you that you can find our recipes on our website, woodlandhomes.com, as well as our Facebook page, our Dream Home Cooking page. And as always, a huge shout out to our wonderful sponsors. We can never tell them how much we appreciate them for allowing us to make this show possible. So we are going to eat this food, and I'm going to save some for Mike for later on. So we'll see you next time.